So this is probably the most embarrassing story that I can tell. It's quite embarrassing. It all started when I went to school, like I did a technical school, right? And we were one of the few classes in the whole school that actually had girls in the class, right? Because the other classes, they were boys only, because not too many girls were doing that kind of technical, computer-ish, logic, math kind of school. And there was one girl in my class that I really had a crush on. I think I had a crush on every girl at that point in my class, but there was one girl I had especially had a crush on, and she was tall. Her name was Catherine, right? She was a basketball player. She had like very long, I think she had brown hair or something, and I had a good angle looking at her, you know. She was always kind of distracting me from what was happening on the blackboard, right? And I was a total, I don't know what I was at that age. I was like very inexperienced, very insecure, didn't know who I was. And basically I thought that, which is a thing many men believe, right? Many men believe that they can win a woman's affection, win a woman being attracted to them, right, by being nice to them. And it's a very interesting pattern. It's not a good pattern to have that, right? Being nice to have someone like you, especially if you do that with a woman. No, it's not good. But let me tell you the story, right? So the story was, it's a moment, right, that kind of encapsulates that. So there was this coding class, right, where we had to write code. It was like C++, you know, some very basic stuff like calculations, right? With you could enter something, and basically we were programming a command line calculator, very basic. You probably can't even call that coding, right? Like it was some if-then statements, whatever, right? Not very advanced, but it was challenging for her, right? I wasn't that good at it, but I at least kind of understood what was going on, right? So I was done with that. I was like, yeah, I'm done here. And she was kind of in the vicinity, and then she was like leaning over, right? And she asked me if I could help her. And I was like, yes, of course. I'm going to do this. I'm going to save you from this dreadful, very difficult coding problem, right? And I was such a jolt at that time. I remember moving over there, you know, and she was sitting very close, and I could smell her hair, and she was like leaning over, you know. She was totally like, what do you call it? Using her, like she was aware that she had an effect on me, that I didn't have like the self-control, you know. Oh, I wasn't used to having so many girls around me, very pretty girls. I just couldn't deal with that, and that she could kind of make me do that thing. So right now when I'm telling that story, I'm like, wow, that's like disgusting, you know. But it's also kind of funny, right? to think about that. And it's good to know that probably today wouldn't happen that way, right? I'm glad there has been some development, luckily. So for one, I forgot how to code in C++, right? So that would be difficult to do that. But I think I arrived at some understandings. And I mean, these understandings, you can't arrive at them when you read a book, right? You need to experience it. You need to see it. You need to have painful experiences, right? But I remember that moment so vividly, right? I was sitting there, she was leaning over. I was like kind of nervous. So I was like, ooh, it's like, I like this. Finally, you know, there's some female attention. Fantastic, right? And now I can be the hero. I can solve this coding thing, right? And then she's absolutely gonna love me, you know? She is so going to love me when I solve this very difficult, very challenging calculus command line calculation in C++, right? And yeah, nothing happened after that. Very, very disappointing, you know. No happily ever after happened. And I mean that, I guess I had a few of those moments, but at some point I realized like that's not really the way to go. That's not really a good strategy, right? If you want to win a woman over to to solve her problems, right? It's not a good strategy. Take it from me, it's not good, right? So I wanted to tell that story. And now that we're at it, today my topic is kind of like telling stories. And I'm thinking, is there another story that I can tell? What's the second most embarrassing story that I can tell? And I think I have a weird story I don't know what it is, weird, funny. For me, it's embarrassing, a little embarrassing. A nice white Tesla, not scratched yet. Not here in Austria. People aren't so aggressive against Tesla here because everything's delayed here, Here in Europe, people are like, they find out about the world news a few weeks later. It's filtered through the machine, through the news machine, Europe, Austrian news machine, twisted, everything's twisted and filtered to match the right narratives here, right? So I don't watch the news, right? I'm not interested, but it was a nice white Tesla, very nice car. So one time I was walking in the inner city in Vienna, and I was doing something that I sometimes enjoy doing. I was chatting up girls, and there was this really pretty, like, Chinese girl. She had like a little tray with, there were some strawberries in there. She had bought some strawberries, and I chatted her up, and we had a really nice chat with each other, and we basically got along really well, and something developed from that. And no, this is too weird to tell that. I won't tell that story, It's not good to tell everything. Always the same car, by the way. Like back here, always the same car. Always parked on the same spot. So it seems this is the favorite parking spot of some person. They're like, this is my favorite spot. I love this. If you park here, I'm gonna lose it. I'm going to scratch your car, especially if it's a Tesla, right? Right. No, I don't want to tell that story. It's too personal. Maybe I can tell some other more embarrassing stories. Nothing comes to mind though. So I'm just enjoying my walk today. No pressure, right? Good place to park your car. I mean, there's you can cross the street there. You might also as well park and whatever, go into your trunk and do something there. Very interesting. And it's sooner today than yesterday. It's like much sooner. So there's light. I'm appreciating the light. I'm enjoying the light. Very good. Yeah, it's interesting. I think one thing that comes to mind that I want to talk about is when we really want something, right? Whatever that is, right? A certain job, want to make a certain amount of money. We really want the girlfriend, we really want something. And the times in my life when that happened, when I really wanted something, oftentimes I got very tense. Like I got very attached to that, in a bad way, kind of so rigid, because I want this. I don't see opportunities. I'm just in this kind of teeth gritted, I'm making this happen, Peter Sage, who I did some training with, he called that buy me mode, I'm gonna make it happen, friction. Maybe, yeah, but it's I think it's with the attachment and wanting to force things. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously you want that thing, right? You want it. So how can you not be attached to it? Let's cross here, could have gone there. This is the official way to do it, but I'm gonna do it here. Feels so much better. My agency, I feel more freedom, I think. Just crossing here, I feel more a sense of a freedom, fulfillment, happiness, joy. meaning and purpose in life. You need to feel that at times, right? So you want that, you really want that thing. So it's hard to let it go, kind of. And yeah, I did a lot of this like Joe Dispenza stuff, and you let it go, you have already achieved it, the wish is already fulfilled. Like, yeah, I don't know, like maybe it works for some people. It hasn't worked so much for me, to be honest, right? But I mean, a thing that does work is when you actually let it go. Like at some point you're like, yeah, okay, I'm just not gonna obsess so much about it, and boom, right? Then it happens. It's weird, but you can't force that to happen. So like any forcing kind of doesn't work, right? But at the same time, you can force things, right? You can like write a lot of people, do a lot of cold outreach. You can like bam, 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 bam. You do a lot of that, and probably something is gonna come through from that. The chances are much higher than if you sit on your sofa and you visualize, right? And you don't take action. But yeah, it's a very complex subject. I think I haven't fully understood that process, to be honest. I'm like, what's the best angle really? And I don't know, like my best angle is just like having clear goals and knowing what I want, having a strong why, and staying consistent, right? And building more flow states, enjoying doing what I'm doing, and building habits that are supporting a proper long-term vision and allowing myself to enjoy those habits. So for me, that works better. That's kind of more simple for me. I spend a lot of time learning all this like manifestation stuff, and I read so much about that, spent so much money on that, and I'm kind of at the place where I'm like, yeah, okay, I've had enough of that for now. I'm just gonna do like more basic, kind of more physical stuff. Maybe you disagree. You're like, no, you're totally wrong. You're manifesting wrong. In the comments, you're like, no, Lucas, you're manifesting wrong. Here's how to manifest. I don't want to hear it. Please, no, do share if you have something. I'm always open and curious, right? But I think the thing that I missed for a long time, being very much into self-development, the thing that I missed was taking responsibility. Because I was like, yeah, if you have some amazing solution for me, I'm just gonna do that, right? I don't have to be responsible. I'm just gonna do your system, right? You tell me what to do, I'm gonna do that, right? So, and then I feel kind of safe because I'm like relying on something that gives me a sense of certainty, right? So you know what you're doing, I'm gonna rely on that, rather than building my own self-confidence and empowering myself to make decisions and to fail, right? So, of course, I think there's a balance, right? I don't think it's smart to not have people around you that are smarter and you're tapping into their knowledge and their skills, and you're asking them like, hey, like, what would you do in this situation? And they might have more experience. But if that is a replacement for you taking responsibility of your actions and developing a self-reliance, a reliance on you thinking for yourself and doing for yourself, taking responsibility for those actions, for the results, the feedback that comes, and learning from that, then you are screwing yourself over. Because you're always placing the locus of control kind of outside of yourself, because you're like, yeah, this person knows how to do it. I rely on them. I'm not going to make my own experiences. I'm scared. That's what you're saying, basically. And for me, I think the biggest thing I took from all the self-development work that I've done is just taking responsibility for my actions and failing, right? And even this, like, for a long time, I had this excessive need, like, I want to avoid failure. I want to do it right. I need the perfect system. I need the perfect person, perfect business mentoring, the perfect dating advice, perfect thing to say, how to live my life the right way, and all of this shit basically. And it's disempowering if you overdo it, because you're not empowering yourself to make your own experiments in life. And I think that's a more powerful frame, even if you have the smartest person in the world and they tell you how to live your life. Maybe it's amazing advice, right? But you're not living your life, you're just doing what another person told you. So what's the point in doing that? In my opinion, like, that's no way to live, right? Very windy out here. And of course it's unpleasant. And when we follow another person and they can give us this impression of certainty, right? It's a business coach. They're like, and part of all sales is making people feel certain, right? So if you're good at selling your stuff, your services, then you're gonna inspire people to believe in you. You're gonna show testimonials, whatever, case studies. This works. What I'm doing works. I know what I'm doing. Of course, you need to do that. But that can also, I mean, on the one side, it's positive because people, if they don't believe so much in themselves, they might believe in you. Then they believe more in themselves. They try new stuff. Great, right? But in the end, we need to take responsibility for our own life. There is no circumventing that. There is no replacement for that. And I think it's scary. I didn't want to do that for a long time. I didn't want to do it. I always wanted the perfect thing to do. The perfect solution, right? External. Someone, please give it to me. And yeah, that's disempowering. It's not good. And it didn't make me happy doing that. Like, I did a business mentoring for how to sell, coaching, how to work with people as a coach. And they had a great system. They had a great system for cold outreach, producing content, how to sell and everything. And I was putting a lot of energy in applying that and doing that. And for some parts of it, I realized that's not how I want to do business, right? That's not how I want to sell. That's not how I want to do client acquisition. And it's hard because if you don't have an alternative, then you're like, no, I need a solution. I need to do this, what this other person says. And it takes a lot of courage to go like, no, I'm just gonna make my own experiment, right? There is this person, they're much more experienced than me, but I don't like exactly how they do it. So okay, one thing, maybe you have to look for someone who's more aligned with your values, how you want to work, right? Or you just need to take responsibility for what you're doing and make your own experiences. And I certainly believe that experience is the most powerful thing, just making your own experiences. It's always more powerful than learning from others. Of course, learning from others is good, right? I'm not saying no, don't learn from people that are smarter than you or that have more experience than you. Like, that would be stupid to say that, right? But there needs to be the right balance, I guess. The right balance of taking in other people's viewpoints and developing your own. Because one issue with that, if you always look on the outside, is your like point of gravity, like your center of gravity. It's outside of yourself. You're like never stable because you're always pinging. Like, what does this person say? What's that person saying? They say I should do whatever, drop shipping. A lot of people have these issues. They're like, I want to start a business. I don't know what, dabbling with this, then dabbling with that, following trends, right? And I think that's one symptom of not following your own guidance. And I think there's no excuse basically for not following your own guidance, because it comes back, like it bites you into your bottom. If you don't develop the ability to think critically for yourself, you're always looking for outside guidance, like that's gonna show up in a lot of areas of your life basically. Like with your partner, right? You're not getting more confident by doing that. at the same time, we need to be open, right? Open to other people's points of view. It's not smart to say like, oh, this is the way to do it. It's not working, but screw you. I don't want to learn from you, right? That's not smart, of course, but I think there's a balance there, right? Being able to say, no, I'm going to make my own experience. I disagree with you. Or saying, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. I can learn something here. And that's like a dance, I think. And for me, certainly, I was more on the side of looking for direction on the outside, looking to other people, more successful people, and neglecting my own judgment. And the other issue with that is if you are more kind of taking your direction from others, from the outside, you might not even feel what your own intuition is telling you. Like I said with the coaching, right? I was like doing a lot of cold outreach, writing to a lot of people. For some people, that's fine. They do like, I don't know, like 3 hours a day, just reaching out to people like DMs, bam, bam, bam. And other people, they have a different strategy for doing that, you know, like building a personal brand, for example, like doing more long-term things. Of course, that takes longer, like cold outreach. You get quicker results if you put in the time and the energy, but it takes a lot of your time and energy. And for me, I realized that's not a sustainable way to run my business. You know, I don't want to be a robot just in the DMs all day, like pitching people, like cold leads that I basically have to convince. It's very tedious. It's not something I wanted to do, right? But I didn't have the guts to say that. I was like, no, this is the business training. Other people are saying that. And then I thought, oh, there must be something wrong with me. Why can't I be more disciplined to do this? Versus just realizing, no, this is not something I enjoy. There must be another path. There must be another way. I don't want to take this one, right? I tried it to the point of understanding that I don't want to follow that path, right? And that takes confidence in your own ability to discern what is the right path for you. And if you always look to other people to tell you what the right path is for you, then you don't develop the ability to decide for yourself, to find out for yourself, basically. So that was a learning journey for me. Just, being more kind of insecure, I guess, as a kid, as a young adolescent. And I really had to develop that. I'm still developing that. And of course, it's a balance game, right? Being open to feedback, but also sometimes closing to feedback. Even if you have like family or people that don't believe into what you're doing. And if you're very open, like you're very porous, you're very you take it in, what other people think and feel and all of that. And then there are people around you are like, no, your idea is shit. Don't do that. You're going to fail. Well, you need a healthy dose of, no, that's your thing. Keep it. I don't want it. I have my own ideas. I have my own plans. And it's challenging. Like being open with the right kinds of people, closing down with people that you don't respect or that just have no idea, that just, what do they say? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, right? I think that's true, right? Sometimes we don't need the opinion of another person or the advice. And it's good when we can say, no, thank you, I don't need that. I disagree. No, fine. And it can be challenging to do that, especially if we're very sensitive, very agreeable even, right? Can be a good trait. I don't know. Maybe agreeableness is always a bad trait if there's too much of it, right? I think agreeing should come from a place of discernment. We agree with someone because we decide, yes, this is good, I agree with that. Like after searching ourselves. Shit, I stepped on something. Because if that's not the source of that, then if that is not the source of the agreement, if it's not coming from discernment, then it's basically submission, right? Or just apathy. Agreeing out of apathy, right? And I mean, apathy is an interesting state of mind. Oops. So I popped up some menu. Hope you can hear me. It's very windy. trying to fix that with my hand and talking louder, because I just need to cross the bridge here, right? I do this every time, the force of habit, right? So, yeah, developing this discernment and thinking for ourselves, right? We're not taught that in school. I wrote about that a few days ago, what schools should teach us, right? A love for learning and the ability to think critically, to make our own decisions, right? And for me, school certainly hasn't taught me that. I don't know if my parents taught me that. I'm not complaining, right? I'm just saying that's something, for example, that's important to me to teach my son, right? And yeah, parents, they do the best. I'm sure your parents have done their best. My parents have done their best, right? I'm trying to do my best for my son. But still, it's important. It's an important skill. And if you don't learn that from your parents or from school, you need to acquire that, like agency, right? Some kids, they have more of that, some have less of that. I don't know if I had a lot of agency. I played a lot of video games, right? I certainly had agency playing video games. But oftentimes in life, I didn't have so much agency, so much drive to do something. So I had to do a lot of soul searching and asking myself, what do I want to do with my life? And I still have these phases, right? I'd start a new project or I do something and then it gets stale and I'm like, why is this getting stale? There's something off. I need to take a break and refocus and ask myself, what direction do I want to go? And if we're very externally driven, we want to fit in, we're looking to other people for approval to an excessive amount, right? Of course, we all want approval to some degree. I'm not saying no, completely avoid it, no approval, fuck everyone else or something like that. That's too extreme. Extreme views are often wrong, I guess. If someone's too extreme, it's like, no, that's a weird sign in my opinion, right? I mean, there's extreme people too. Sometimes it can be good, of course, right? If you're very committed to a certain cause, it's nuanced. But overall, I think, even like with the virtues, right? You have the virtuous mean by Aristotle. How do you say him in English? Aristotle? I don't know. Like the Stoic, right? You're like, Lucas, now you're really screwing up the pronunciation. I know, right? But he said the virtuous mean, right? Courage, for example. If you're too courageous, you're rash, right? Like the young warrior that charges into battle, he doesn't think. And if you have too little of that, you're a coward, right? You don't take action when you should. And there is a balance there. There is like a middle point, and that's the virtuous mean. That's exactly how much courage a certain situation demands from you, basically. Yeah, I don't know how that was connected to what I said before, There's a beautiful sunset. I'll just distract you. Let's not worry about the cohesiveness of this presentation, right? Very beautiful here. And yeah, it's a very important skill, like being guided by your own intuition. And if you're too externally oriented, you might end up being 40 or 50 or maybe even 60. And you're like, holy shit, what happened to my life, right? I was always chasing these external goals. Where am I? I'm at some place in my life, I don't even want to be here. Who am I, right? Can happen at any age, basically. I mean, it's good if you become aware of it for yourself, that you want to change something. I'd say, doesn't matter at what age you become aware of that. Better late than never, right? So, but it certainly takes effort to remove yourself from the group think, right? What everyone around you is thinking and believing gives a lot of security. Because we have all these other people, it's safer, That's like when the wolf comes, the sheep, they try to hide in the middle of the herd. They go to the middle because that's the place where the wolf is less likely to go to. He's gonna pick some strays at the edge of the herd, right? He's gonna eat them, devour them, you know. I don't know if a wolf does like that. In my head he does, right? Or she can also be a female wolf, you know. We are living in very gender fluid, gender something, gender focused, I guess, gender focused times, right? Big topic these days. Gender is a big topic. Women stepping more into their power, men stepping out of their power, I feel, lately. It's a weird time. Some weird things are happening, I think. Interesting, right? Progress. Is it progress? Is it regress? I don't know. Something's happening. Let's keep it at that. And yeah, being in the middle of the herd, it kind of protects you. Also with beliefs, doing something. You know, if you have all these people around you, they're like, yeah, that's also what I do. That's also what I believe. You know, everyone can understand you. You get acceptance. It feels good. You're like, yeah. So if you step out of that, danger, right? If you disagree, if you have a different viewpoint, you might lose some friends. You might lose the people that used to agree with you. Now they're like, I can't understand you anymore. You've changed so much, right? Well, it's challenging to have thoughts, to say things, to do things that don't agree with the mass, basically, right? But it's important. If you feel like that, if you're like, yeah, that's me, you're important, right, for the system. If you disrupt, if you innovate, you're important. And the sheep, they don't know that. They're like, no, the people just reacting. They're just like, I want to feel safe, and they reject the unfamiliar, right? They're not thinking on a system level, like, no, this is important, you're an important innovator. They're like, usually, right? Usually people are like misunderstood until they get like the breakthrough or whatever. Like they slave away for 10 years, like they really do something, and suddenly people are like, yes, it's a miracle. He's a genius. She's a genius, right? Yeah, and who's talking about and there's so many stories of people saying that who had a lot of success, like just what I just said, right? This experience of investing for a long time and then boom, there's the breakthrough. Suddenly there's a lot of acceptance and people just, they put it to your whatever, talent. You're so talented, right? Interesting. I don't know why I talked about that. Just got reminded of that. There's some grilling, spot for grilling here, right? You can make a fire here. Maybe not when it's as windy as today. Yeah. Trying to think of something else that is important in that connection. I mean, it's like a different way of living if you want to innovate, if you want to do things differently, right? And I think there's an entry point to that. I think my entry point to doing that was I was just not being raised with a skill set, with social skills, with emotional self-regulation skills. Like my parents didn't teach me in a way that I could live happily. Like my nervous system was out of whack. Shit wasn't working, you know. Some people, they're like at 30, 40, whatever, after they have achieved the pinnacle of their career, they're like, yeah, somehow I'm not happy. I need to question myself. For me, that was much sooner. I was like 16, 17, and I was like, wow, my life is fucked. The trajectory I'm on, it's going into a wall. No, this is not gonna happen. I can't do it like this. I can't live like this, right? So for me, that was, I guess, desperation, right? I think there's other entry points. Maybe it's curiosity for some people. They're like, wow, this is so interesting. The world is so full of possibility. I want to explore, right? I think that's very beautiful. It wasn't like that for me. It was very painful for me. A lot of forcing it, a lot of suffering, right? But sometimes that's how life delivers the presents to you, right? They come in a package that's wrapped in shit, right? There's shit all over it. You have to get your hands dirty digging through that shit. but at some point you get the present, right? And you're happy. So, or there's other entry points. I don't know which. Maybe if you do have really inspiring parents and they're like, you know, they fuel that love for learning in your life. They help you to discover that. They help you to develop yourself. I think that's amazing too, right? I don't think it matters. And oftentimes suffering can be a very suffering can be a very effective entry point into personal growth and development. Not pleasant, yes, I know, but I think it's great. And it's also when someone tells me, like, I don't know, I talk to a woman and she's like, yeah, I'm about to leave my boyfriend, right? I talked to one friend of mine and I was telling her, that's fantastic, you know, for him, that's incredible. I'm like, there's a part of me that's happy for him because he can go through a breakup. And for me, all breakups in my life from women, they have been the biggest learning experiences, right? They have been the biggest transformative experiences in my life, where I started rediscovering myself and what I want, like started reinventing myself, started growing a lot. So part of me, when someone tells me, yeah, I'm going to leave this guy, part of me is like, great, fantastic. I'm genuinely happy for him. Like, he might not know that, it might feel like shit, but there's so much growth potential in that, right? And of course, that's a skill, right? Dealing with adversity is a skill. Some people, they are really good at that. Like, horrible stuff happens to them and they come out on top. And I think that's a really powerful skill to have that, like this resilience and this ability to turn something negative into something positive and inspiring and empowering. And it certainly takes energy, of course, right? But it's a skill. I think you can learn that. So, and easy stuff, you know, like just reframing things. Like, who is giving the meaning to what happens to you, right? Is it someone else? Is it life? Is it your childhood? Like, no, in the end, it's you. You're doing that. And if it's a habit, you're doing it out of habit, sure, right? Might take some energy to change that habit, but it's still you doing it. It's still, you are the person that gives meaning to the things that happen in your life. You can say a relationship ending, that is the worst thing that can happen to me. You can be super depressed for years. Like, people can be depressed for years after a relationship ends. They're like, what's your lesson from that relationship ending? And they say, yeah, my lesson is that I don't deserve to be loved and that I should get a cat and quit and never date again. Relationships are shit. That's my lesson. Then I'm like, you know, is that a smart lesson? Like, if the lesson you're getting from an experience is not an empowering one, then it's up to you to find the real lesson, right? Then you're still in the layer, the flies again. You're still in the layer of the shit of this present, right? You're still in the shit layer. You're like, this is shit. No, you need to keep digging. If that's happening, you need to keep digging through the shit. There is a lesson somewhere in there, right? It's in there, I promise. You just have to keep digging. And sometimes you have to stop, put that package to the side. You're like, thank you, wash your hands, take a nap, and then you go at it again, right? Yeah. So, and that's another thing that reminds me, like beliefs, right? What do we believe about the world? What do we believe about ourselves? And I really like this quote, and that is, basically you take a belief, or it's not really a quote, right? But you take a belief based on how useful it is, right? You take a belief, like I believe, whatever, that life is, in the end, it's good. It wants my growth, it wants my happiness, right? Do I know if that belief is true? If that's really the case, you know? There's self-confirmation bias, right? We start looking for evidence, we can build up a belief. We can build up weird beliefs, right? Like we're believing in aliens, we believe in whatever, some conspiracy. People can really lock themselves into a belief. And that is an ability that we have and we can use it for good, right? So I think it's smarter to believe that life in the end is positive, because can we prove it? No, but it's more useful. The same with relationships. You're like, yeah, no, relationships are shit, you know, they're like a struggle, they're horrible. Yeah, you can believe that if you want to, but is that going to help you to approach relationships in a positive sense, in a positive way? Probably not, right? So you might want to consider changing that. And of course, there might be like an emotional undercurrent under that. I'm not saying to invalidate that, to be like, no, your emotions don't matter, just think positively. No, I'm not saying that. Of course, it's more complex, but we can change those beliefs if we understand how important they are in shaping our life, right? Yes, so that was my rant today. Embarrassing story of me being a chode in the beginning, you know, how I tried to win over this girl back in school, trying to solve this very difficult C++ problem, you know, programming, and some other reflections on life. Almost stepped into like a puddle of water there. It has rained a lot today, and it's pretty cold, as you can tell. Like the summer attire, it's gone, you know, it's almost like autumn now. Need to put that on soon. That was my rant. I hope you can take something useful from that. If you're interested in ghostwriting, of course I do ghostwriting for personal branding. I can write threads for you if that floats your boat, if you're interested in that. And I also do coaching, mostly on accountability, changing your habits, your beliefs, developing more confidence, making decisions for yourself, creating a life that you enjoy living. That's something I'm doing that's important for me. I don't think there's another way to live life. I think proactivity, agency, that's important. Shaping your life into something beautiful so you can create beauty around you as well, with the people you love, with your community, society, ultimately all the other people around you. I hope it was useful. You could take something from this. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I'm happy if you drop me a like, put a little heart there. Makes me happy, makes the algorithm happy, everyone's happy, makes you happy. Thank you for listening. Sending you lots of love. Have a great rest of your day and speak to you soon. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.